Hello and welcome to extended highlights of the 2014 Caroline Cooler Cup. I'm David Addison, the official voice of the Cooler Cup, and it's my pleasure to present this fourth annual football tournament. The 2014 Cup was played at the Street Futsal Courts at Albert Park. The new venue provided the most competitive football ever seen in Cooler Cup history, with more goals, more hits and more injuries than we've ever seen before. 5 teams arrived for their chance at glory, led by foundation squad, the Frankston Dees. They were joined by reigning champs, the Highett Howarths, the Carlton Cocks, plus new teams Frankston South City and the St Kilda East Eagles. The first game was between cross-town rivals Frankston and Frankston South. The town of Frankston hasn't always been known for its peace and harmony, but these two teams put on a civilised show. John Bung got the South City team off to a flyer, kicking the first goal of the tournament and sending an ominous sign to all rivals. But the D's slow start was quickly overcome. Tim Gibson and Grant Rowley almost bagged an equaliser here, before Adam Rowley got a nice little deflection off Tom McGrath's leg, giving the D's their first goal for 2014. From there, the D's started to shift up some gears. Gibson slotted this from long range to move Team Pink to a 2-1 lead. But the South City team wasn't totally done. With the first half nearing its end, Diego Viana had a certain goal stopped by Mark Walker, and it showed just how close this game was going to be. The second half started with a flurry of goals for the D's. Adam Rowley buried this one into the steel net, and it wasn't long until they had the ball back. Adam's wall ball landing right at the feet of Gibson, who scored his second for the match, moving the D's to a comfortable 4-1 lead. With under 5 minutes remaining, the game looked the D's to lose. And that's exactly what they tried to do. Cameron Neils scored his first goal for South City, and in the blink of an eye, the tide changed. Soon after, Neils was at it again, but this time he kicked a ripping half volley to put South City 1 goal away from an equaliser. That equaliser came little more than 10 seconds later, with Neils giving a clean ball to Viana to make the score 4-4 with 3.5 minutes remaining. This is where the game started to get physical. Rowley lent on Neils, and the good-natured start to this cross-town rivalry was about to get nasty. Eventually, John Bung picked up the scraps and kicked South City back into the lead. The tempo of the game was up, and the D's rekindled their fire. Rowley and Stephen Mullins combined to score this great goal, levelling the scoreboard again. Gibson launched a long-range shot, saved admirably by keeper Ed Faulkner. With 10 seconds remaining, it gave South City one final chance, and it was a chance that Cameron Neils would not pass up. It was a terrific start to the 2014 Cooler Cup, decided right on full time. Neils scored 3 goals and helped South City to a dream debut. The second game was between reigning Cooler Cup champs, the Highett Howarths, playing in green, taking on another new squad, the St Kilda East Eagles. Tim Webber almost snatched an early goal for the Howarths, but it was this tight and awkward kick from Tim Topali that had the scoreboard ticking for the Eagles. The next goal looked like it would come much easier for the Eagles, with captain Matthew Barker firing a shot at Howarth skipper Phil Howarth. And defence turned into attack when a clumsy mistake by Chris Hutton saw the Howarths bag a goal out of absolutely nothing. That Howarth goal was a blip on the radar though, as Topali made light work of his second goal, putting the Eagles back in front. An ever so slight penalty, rewarded by referee Frank Hankel, cost Barker this brilliant goal. The Howarths looked strong in patches, with another Webber attempt stopped by Hutton, but the Eagles' swift counter-attack quickly saw Adam Beer bag his first goal of the tournament. The second half started with more courageous Howarth attacking. Callum Howarth sent one just wide of the goals, but the Eagles were proving too hard to contain. And costly errors in the goal were not helping the Howarths' cause. While the Howarths tried, there was little they could do with the Eagles as they soared to a win on debut in the Cooler Cup. Beer finished off with another goal and ended the game with a 5-1 scoreline. And on a day where goal difference would likely be the key, this was an important result. 2 games down and the 2 new teams were victorious, which made Game 3 vital for the hopes of the Frankston Dees and the Highett Howarths. Phil Howarth had 2 early cracks at goal, with both of them either stopped or wide of the mark. Adam Rowley had a lunge down the right wing, but his shot was also off target. Step up to the plate, Tim Gibson. Quicker than you could blink, Andrew Howarth had the team in green back in the game with a perfectly placed punt. But it was all one-way traffic from there as the Dees began to apply the blowtorch. Mullins was denied a goal by the backside of his teammate Adam Rowley before Grant Rowley made 2 spirited runs down the flanks, trying in vain to link up with his younger brother Adam. Both attempts failed and the second one should have gone in. Stephen Mullins made up for Rowley's failings by punching this goal home to give Frankston a 2-1 lead at the half-time break. At the resumption of play, Tim Gibson wasted no time with his second goal for the match, and it was clear the Howarths were starting to get frustrated. The men in green did not give up, as first Phil Howarth and then Jose Goitia peppered the Frankston goals in a desperate attempt to get back in the game. But the Dees were a match for the Howarths in defence, no matter how painful. And Tim Gibson put a nail in the coffin with this great long-range goal, giving the Dees a 4-1 advantage. The goals didn't stop there either. Mullins had 3 attempts at this one before finally getting the result he wanted. Mullins followed it straight up with another brilliant individual goal, making the scoreline 6-1. And wasn't the big man happy? 3 goals to Gibson, 3 to Mullins, and the Dees were back in the game. But it was the end of back-to-back games for Highett, and with 2 losses, their chance of winning back-to-back Cooler Cup crowns was all but over. Next up was the Carlton Cocks, who ventured out for their first match of the tournament. They would play the Frankston South team, who were riding high after their first up win over the Dees. Cocks player Phil Mahoney tried a long-range shot that just flew over the crossbar. But it was a smart play between Mahoney, Julian DeLio and Phil Robotis that got the Cocks on the board first. The Cocks looked to be on song, but South City weren't going down without a fight. Tom McGrath passed this neat ball to Viana, who marginally sailed it wide. The game was seesawing. DeLio had a long-range toe poke saved well by Faulkner before Niels had another shot on target. Cocks captain Cedric Dufour saved it and did his best to destroy our video equipment at the same time. The Cocks led 1-0 at half-time, and Robotis tried to extend that advantage early in the second half, but another great save by Faulkner kept them in it. Finally, the scoring drought ended when Viana put the Cocks under pressure in their own half, forcing a mistake that John Bung made them pay for. At 1-1, the game was alive and it inspired the Cocks, but they couldn't regain their lead. Harry Faulkner, the son of Ed, took on goalkeeping duties after his dad injured his knee. The youngster made an immediate impact, sending this ball to Niels, who scored a timely goal. Niels then went from game changer to game winner, chipping the ball over Dufour's head to seal a great goal and a hard-fought 3-1 victory over the pre-tournament favourites. The win for South City also put them at the top of the ladder after 4 games, but there was a long way to go. The Cocks stayed on the pitch for their second game up against old rivals the Frankston Dees, a rematch of the 2012 Grand Final. Tim Gibson got the Dees off to the best possible start, booting a great goal from the left flank. The Cocks weren't lying down though. Cedric Dufour tried this one, but it was skillfully saved by Mark Walker. Again, it was Gibson who was the early difference, snatching this ball from Robotis and pinching another goal, giving Frankston an impressive 2-0 lead. Again, Gibson went on the attack, and if not for a great save by Mahoney, the game could have been almost over. That was just the inspiration the Cocks needed. Dufour passed the ball to Delayo, who scored his first Cooler Cup goal, putting the Cocks right back in the contest. The second half started with a tight fight between captains Rowley and Dufour. The Frenchman got the better of the Australian, and to top it off, chipped the ball nicely to Robotis, who headed it in and drew the scores level with plenty of game time remaining. Frustration started to creep into the D's play. Adam Rowley committed a foul, and Phil Mahoney made no mistake, slotting home a goal at an impossible angle. From there on, the game belonged to Carlton. Robotis and Delayo combined for this one. And soon after, a misdirected Mahoney rocket landed right at Delayo's feet, giving him another goal and putting the game out of the D's reach. The D's continued to apply themselves, but nothing was going their way. In the end, the Cocks were simply playing games with them. This Delayo goal, right at the full-time whistle, was his 4th for the match and put him right in contention for the Golden Goal Award. Tim Gibson's 2 early goals seemed like a lifetime ago as the D's final hopes began to fade fast. Carlton, however, were right back in the picture and were right in the fight for a grand final berth at the halfway point of the Cooler Cup tournament. The new Cooler Cup teams were next onto the field, the Eagles and South City. And right from the get-go, Tim Topali put South City on notice, ramming home this long-range goal. After the early goal, young Harry Faulkner didn't want to make the same mistake twice, this time blocking Topali's efforts from close in. It was a tight first half with no real chances for either team. This was as close as South City got. The second half started with action. Topali passed to Iverson, weaving a ball to Beer, who slotted home goal number 2 for St Kilda. The Eagles had the wind in their sails, but maybe a little too much for Iverson. But that didn't stop the Norwegian, who stole the ball in the goalmouth and bagging his first goal for the game. The Eagles were running hot, and Beer looked to end the game with these shots on goal, saved beautifully by Faulkner Jr. South City weren't quite ready to lie down. Cameron Niels made this inspirational individual run at goal, with John Bung eventually getting the Blues on the board. Niels again created another goal, this time for Diego Viana to put into the back of the net, but it was all too late. St Kilda East had done enough to secure a close yet comfortable 3-2 victory. The win also meant that the Eagles were the only undefeated team in the competition after 6 games, but it would be their next challenge that would be the ultimate test. Not only a back-to-back game, it came against Cedric Dufour's Carlton Cocks. But the Frenchman's squad didn't faze the Eagles, who were on a hot streak. Tim Topali scored the first goal, the first of many in the match. The second goal didn't take long to get on the board, and it was this smart off-the-wall play by Iverson that gave Topali his second. Iverson kept the good times rolling, pinching the ball off Gerald Ami and chipping it to the right of Phil Robotis to race away to an early 3-goal lead. But those who know the Cocks know they don't lie down for long. Ami made up for his earlier error by setting up Julian Delio for this long-range goal. It wasn't long though before Iverson was back in the game, and a lazy effort from the Cocks saw Team Yellow go in again. The second half started in much the same fashion. Topali kicked a great goal around keeper Phil Mahoney, making the score an incredible 5-1. Surely the Cocks' day was done. Phil Robotis did not look happy, and with just over 6 minutes of the match remaining, they needed a miracle. This goal by Robotis brought the deficit back to 3. And this Delio stab saw the margin reduced to 2. Did the Cocks still have a chance? Delio was again the man to make the move, passing to Robotis, who slotted another great goal to make the score 5-4. The Cocks were giving it everything, peppering the goals with some aggressive play, but the Eagles had stepped up, and Matthew Barker almost scored a great goal, only defended by a save equal to the shot. Something had to give, and it was none other than Dufour who evened the scoreboard. But was there one final twist? Yes, there was. Topali landed one on target, saved again by an inspired Mahoney. The ball was then thrown down to Robotis, who managed to squeeze it behind keeper Chris Hutton to give the Cocks a remarkable lead and victory in one of the closest matches of the tournament. The win for the Cocks meant that the top 3 teams all had 2 wins and a loss apiece, only separated by a very minor goal difference. Frankston, South and Highett were next up, and South City had much to play for if they wanted to make the final 2. Captain Owen Black got his Frankston team off to the best possible start, scoring a great individual goal. Highett struck back quickly, with Jose Goitia getting this one to spill out of Harry Faulkner's hands. Goitia then took the game into his own hands, booting this long-range rocket to give Highett a surprising early lead. While Highett were all but out of finals contention, they were still trying hard. This clash between Andrew Howarth and Diego Viana was the first of 3 between these two in this match. As the Howarths do and say, the broken bones can mend themselves another day. Callum and Phil linked up down the right-hand side to set up Goita for his 3rd goal of the game and giving the Howarths a handy 3-1 lead at the end of the half. A new, energised South City team arrived in the second half, with John Bung setting them on the right path. Cameron Neals should have scored this one, but a fine save from Tim Webber stopped it. But a freak bounce off the wall, a nice pass from Viana and then a great finish by Neals made the scorelines equal with plenty of time to play. Callum Howarth got his feet moving, snatching this ball and claiming the crossbar in a great attempt. The ball eventually came down to see Andrew Howarth and Viana settle their battle for the game. Neals and Bung again linked up, but it was Bung who eventually put South City in front of the Howarths for the first time since the opening minutes. And from the restart it looked like the Howarths had given up. Viana booted another tournament goal to put the game out of the reach of Team Green. All that was left to do was see Andrew H and Viana have one final stouch before Billy the ref blew his whistle to signal the end of the Howarths' 2014 chances. That was also the final round-robin game for Frankston South City. Now at the top of the table, their fate would lie in the hands of the final 2 matches. The first of those games was between St Kilda East and the Frankston Dees. St Kilda wasted little time finding its groove, with Tim Topali getting one to jag off the wall and into the waiting feet of Edward Iverson. The Eagles won, Frankston 0, and the game had barely started. Goal 2 for the Eagles also came quickly. This time it was Topali who took the glory. Not known for his patience, Adam Rowley had a punt at goal from kick-off and came up with the goods. And he was pretty happy. Stephen Mullins and Rowley then made a play at another quick goal, but their attack went wide. Great pressure from Rowley, however, saw him bag his second goal and level the scoreboard. Shortly after, Iverson turned the game into a shoving match, pushing Tim Gibson off the ball. It set Gibson up for a penalty, and he didn't let his side down. The equaliser was all for St Kilda, but unfortunately, our great cameraman, Ben O'Connor, fell asleep on the job and missed the goal. For all we know, it could have been the best of the tournament, but we'll never know. But if Topali's goal was a dud, he made sure his next was first class. He extended his team's advantage with this left foot gem. The Dees' chances of making the finals were all but over before this match, but they weren't backing off. Mullins made a spirited run, Adam Rowley hit the crossbar before Adam Beer almost capitalised in this counter-attack. Mullins was again up to his tricks, fighting through the pack, but maybe fighting a little too hard. The second half started with Grant Rowley giving away a cheap penalty to Iverson, who needed little more than a toe poke to put the Eagles 2 goals ahead. The Dees were not done though, and this ended up being one of the ugliest goals of the tournament. It was also Grant Rowley's only goal. Regardless, the Dees were back within 1 goal. But quick as you like, the Eagles had negated the Dees' hard work. Matthew Barker scored an easy yet classy goal to make the scoreline 6-4. Again at the kickoff, Adam Rowley had a slog at the metal sticks, and again he succeeded. It was his 3rd goal of the game, and he was a happy camper. Despite the Dees' tenacity, the Eagles had owned the game, and Iverson put it all beyond doubt with his 3rd for the game. That drew a close on Frankston's 2014 campaign. A good performance, but not good enough. The win for the Eagles secured them a place at the top of the table, enough to guarantee a spot in the grand final. But their grand final opponents weren't quite decided yet. The final game between Highett and Carlton was crucial. Carlton needed to win by 2 goals to lock in their place against St Kilda East. But the Cocks didn't get off to a great start, with Callum Howarth scoring a great individual goal. Were the Cocks looking shaky again? Not if Cedric Defoe had anything to do with it. He stole the ball, handed it to Gerald Ami before Phil Robotis levelled the score to settle the Cocks' nerves. But maybe their nerves needed something a little harder. Callum crossed the ball to older brother Phil, who bagged a goal to give the Cocks another fright. The Howarths mounted another attack, with Phil scoring his 2nd goal in moments to make the score 3-1. We'd seen the Cocks down before, but could they come back under this much pressure? The Howarths certainly weren't going to make it easy. The second half started with a Cocks goal. Dufour blasted down the flanks, passing the ball to Julian Delayo, who made it look all too easy. But now it was time for Phil Howarth to shine. He made this great burst to score his 3rd for the game. And with so much on the line, the crowd was starting to get involved. It was a tight contest, and this small mistake from Ami saw Callum Howarth bag his 2nd and make the scoreline 5-2. More goals came for the Howarths, and again it was Phil who twisted his body to bend the ball into the back of the net. 6-2. The Cocks were down, and they needed to find something special. And as quick as you like, Phil Robotis stepped up and got the Cocks pumping. Gerald Ami then found himself in the right place to make it 6-4. but the Cocks still needed 4 more goals. The Cocks were starting to play like a team again, and Robotis was there to reduce the Howarths' advantage to 1. Delio and Robotis were now starting to make it look all too easy. This goal levelled the scores, but with 2 minutes to go, 2 more goals were still needed. One of those could have come here, but a great save from Tim Webber kept the game alive. But his mistake straight after was enough to give the Cocks the lead. 1 goal was needed. Could the Cocks do it? They'd come from behind before, and as you see here, they did it again. And who better than captain Cedric Dufour, who slotted this perfect punt from close range to seal Carlton an emphatic 8-6 win, and most importantly, a place in the grand final against the St Kilda East Eagles. Sadly, that was the end of the line for Frankston South City, who must have thought they had a chance while the Cocks were down by as many as 4 goals. So the big dance was played between St Kilda East Eagles and the Carlton Cocks. The Eagles were consistent throughout the whole tournament, and the Cocks were up and down. Cedric Dufour even donned a special pair of red shorts for the final match. The Eagles were immediately on the attack, and if not for a few brilliant saves from Phil Mahoney, St Kilda would have been off to a dream start. It wasn't long though before the first goal was scored, and who better than Tim Topali? This great spin and kick made it 1-0 Eagles' way. Not to be outdone, Phil Robotis quickly made his presence felt, nabbing the ball into the goals at an incredible angle. Mahoney was in the goal-saving form of his life, keeping the Cocks alive. But the constant pressure could not be stopped, Topali scoring his second to put the Eagles in front. "2-1 became 3-1 when Edvin Iverson launched this long-range rocket from his own end of the pitch. Mahoney was stunned and hardly moved. The second half started in favour of Carlton. This small penalty gave Robotis a shot from the spot. His pass to Mahoney put the Cocks back into contention. The Cocks continued to attack, but Iverson was awake to the challenge, and soon he had another goal to his name. The seesawing match continued that trend at the kick-off, with Robotis getting 1 back on the Eagles. The advantage in the game was swinging fast, and something had to give. And maybe it was this stray challenge from Mahoney that was the game changer. It was enough to break the Cocks' hearts, and a final goal for Adam Beer put the Eagles 3 goals clear. And that was the final goal. Topali had one last shot, but the buzzer was moments away, as was a maiden Caroline Cooler Cup victory for the St Kilda East Eagles. An incredible victory for the Cooler Cup debutants, defeating the Carlton Cocks 6-3 in an emotion-charged final. Deservedly, Tim Topali and Phil Robotis finished as the tournament's top goal scorers, each bagging a staggering 12 goals each. Tim Gibson and Edvard Iverson could also hold their heads high with 8 each. In the all-time goal scorers list, Gibson had moved into the lead with a career total of 17, 1 ahead of Tom Shaw, unfortunately absent from this year's tournament. Howarth hero Phil is now 3rd on the list with 13, equal with Carlton captain Cedric Dufour. And as you just heard, the St Kilda East Eagles were the champs in another enthralling Cooler Cup competition. Eagles captain Matthew Barker was very excited, but needs to learn to treat the Cooler Cup with a little more respect. But you can take nothing away from the new team on the block. The St Kilda East Eagles, the 2014 Cooler Cup champions. Special thanks to referee Frank Hankel, videographer Ben O'Connor, and all the players for another great day. I'm David Addison, the official voice of the Cooler Cup, and we look forward to seeing you in 2015.